And if you guys are out there drinking, you know, have your fun, have a hoot, but hootin' is a gateway to hollerin', and hollerin' could get you arrested for public intoxication, so be careful. Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, or to it if this is the first time you are seeing my face. Thank you for clicking on it. My name is Jacy and we have some more Storytime Snippets for you guys. We are going to be chit-chatting about some hilarious and crazy party stories. I'm talking house parties where y'all get together, have a little bit of the loosey goose juice, and then chaos ensues. These Storytime Snippets are silly, tame, and mundane, but as usual, I want to hear some of your guys' story times. So these aren't going to be too crazy, but I just wanted to share some secondhand story times with you guys and chit chat and talk about some other funny, crazy party stories. Now, I am not a partier. I didn't have my first sip of alcohol till I was 21. I've been like going out and about lately a lot this year, but none of these stories are actually mine because I don't have any crazy story about partying, but my dad does. So before we hop into that story time, make sure to like this video and subscribe. It really helps me out and I want to hang out with you guys even more. And you can go follow me on all my other social channels. You guys get it. Anyway, let's hop into some of these Storytime Snippets about these crazy parties. All right, so story number one comes from my own father, and I hope I can tell this, Dad. It's okay, Dad doesn't know how to use YouTube. So back in the 80s, maybe 70s, I don't know, my dad's an old man. He lived in an apartment in Los Angeles. Oh my God, where I am now. He was the upstairs neighbor to a very rowdy group of people that always seemed to have a lot of individuals coming and going from their apartment. My dad was friendly with this person, but didn't really know too much about them. This downstairs apartment, they, like I said, had a lot of people coming and going, but they also had a lot of parties every now and then. And my dad didn't mind. He was cool. He was the chill upstairs neighbor who was like, have your fun. Just don't play the music too loud past 10 p.m. No, that's me. And one night they were having a party that was getting insanely out of control. Now, I will note that my dad was not actually at this party. He was upstairs reading Moby Dick for all I know. So the party had gotten so chaotic that the cops were actually called. So woo, 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 outside there were a couple of coppers, and all of a sudden my dad hears a knock at the door. He opens his door and sure enough, it's his downstairs neighbor holding a duffel bag. This guy's in a panic. He's kind of flustered, kind of hyperventilating. And again, they were like friendly, but he was like, hey man, I need you to just watch this duffel for me, okay? Like you didn't hear from me, but just watch this duffel, okay? I'll be back for it tomorrow. And my dad was kind of like, okay, what am I gonna do? Say no? And it all happened so fast, the guy immediately like shuts the door, runs downstairs, the cops invade the party, break it up, yada, yada, yada. So my dad takes a look inside the duffel. I wish I could report it was like a decapitated head or something. No, I'm glad I can't report that. Golly, Jacy, why would I wish that? He opens up the duffel bag and what does he find but pounds of, I don't know if I can actually say the word on YouTube. Pounds and pounds of ganja. The devil's lettuce, the jazz cabbage, the giggly bush, a bag of pot. And that's what he realizes. People don't just have duffel bags of weed. This guy must be a drug dealer. And clearly when the cops were coming to invade the party, he wanted to get rid of the evidence. So now my dad's a little on edge. He's a little nervous. Luckily he wasn't at the party. The cops never came up to search his apartment because why would they? And he was just like, okay, I don't want to piss this guy off. I will keep an eye on this duffel bag and he'll be back for it tomorrow. So funny party story, right? Even though my dad didn't go to it. No, the funny part of this story is that the next day, the downstairs neighbor didn't come back for the bag. No big deal. That week, he never came back for the bag. Maybe he's still under surveillance, is trying to keep a low profile. But then my dad sees him in the apartment complex and he's just like trying to talk in code because again, he knows this guy is into some shady activities, so doesn't want to give it away or doesn't want to seem like a narc. So he's like, hey man, how was your party last week? You get it. And the guy's like, oh yeah, sorry if we were making too much noise. Like the cops busted it up. Like, hey, thanks for being a cool neighbor. And my dad's like, yeah. Anything else? And this downstairs neighbor, I don't know, wasn't catching on to the hint, but he was literally like all right, well, take care, and walks away. And so my dad's sitting there being like, either he's still talking in code and will be back later to pick it up and is trying to test how cool I am, or this guy was so messed up on Mary Jane and who knows what other drugs in his system that he completely forgot that he had given my dad this bag of weed to watch over. And so there it sat in my dad's apartment for weeks on end. My dad didn't touch it. He was a little too scared. And then after a substantial amount of time had passed, after my dad had several times hinted to this downstairs neighbor, like, are you forgetting something? Like, is there anything else you wanted to pick up? The downstairs neighbor never came back for the weed. And I guess the whole punchline of this whole story is we're like, Dad, what'd you do with it? What'd you do with it? And in typical father fashion, he goes, oh, I gave it away to some friends. Who knows the real story? I don't know if I believe that answer, but still a funny party story, still one I wanted to tell as a little personal anecdote, even though I wasn't there. But let this be a lesson. If you're gonna ask a friend to watch over a duffel bag of drugs, try not to be too messed up when you ask them and forget about it, because that was probably thousands of dollars worth of weed for all I know. And Dad, I hope I told that story right, but even if I didn't, it's still pretty funny. So the next secondhand storytime snippet comes from a friend during college where they were at a frat party. Now, I have never been to a frat party. I was very lame in college. Go check out that old video of why I hated college. I cry a lot in that video if you're interested. But apparently, frat parties can get a little out of control, especially back in my day when I was in college. There were no rules or regulations. It was a lawless wasteland of alcohol back then. But I guess at this one frat party, there was alcohol involved. There may have been drugs involved. And there was this one dude named Cameron, let's say, who got a little too turnt for comfort. My friend was telling me that he actually was trying to snort tequila. I don't even know how that would work, what kind of luge you would need to make that happen. But he was doing all kind of crazy things to get himself turned up. And I've been there before where you're like, you know, self-care isn't working anymore. Let's try alcohol. But my friends, snorting tequila is not the way to go. And this guy was absolutely twisted by, you guessed it, the time the cops showed up. So the cops or the campus security shows up, whatever it is, and they start to break up the party. For some reason, Cameron, hell-bent on the loosey goose juice, panics. He's like, oh shit, cops are here. I can't get caught by the cops. He takes off sprinting to go jump out the window. But the window wasn't open. So Cameron smashes through the glass outside, takes a tumble, and there is shattered glass everywhere. Cameron is all cut up, he is bloody, and the cops are standing in the living room being like, my guy, it is not that serious. You are of drinking age. We're just telling you guys all to disperse to not disturb the neighbors. You didn't have to unalive yourself almost by trying to escape the cops. And then the frat bros are sitting there like, no, dude, my window, what the hell? And then he takes off running, which is so funny because he never got caught. But they were like, hey, Cameron, you owe us like $1,000 for breaking our window. Also, are you okay? Cameron's okay. But that made for a very memorable story for my friend at this frat party, because could you imagine seeing somebody run full speed through a window just to try to run away from the cops? I tell you, some people. I lied to you guys. I do have another personal party story time from my own personal experience. Go figure. But it's more so something that I witnessed that I just thought would be funny to tell. So one time I was at a party. Funny enough, it was a Shrek-themed party. I went dressed as Donkey, of course. And there was this girl who was at this party, and she pulled up in like this camper van, I guess. This party was in San Francisco where my best friend used to live, and she wasn't from the area, so she took her little camper van up to visit and was kind of like sleeping in her van during this trip, which is pretty smart because you save on like hotel and Airbnb costs. But we're at this party, and she ends up flirting up this one guy, and they start making out. Oh my God, I have a video of this because it was so funny. Wait, Maybe I will blur their faces. Wait, I'm just now remembering this. I can include this. Yeah, I'll blur their face. This was really funny because at this party and at this time, these two people that are making out were literally the only two single people at this party. They got together like magnets and were like, you don't have a boyfriend, no situationship, no flirtationship, no little guy on the side. All right, let's swap spit here. And so they're just making out, and I thought it was so funny. I was dancing. I don't know why I did this. Please don't judge me for this, but I don't know. It's silly. It's silly. So this girl looks at this guy, and she was like, I have a camper van parked in the driveway if you want to see it. All of a sudden, these two people disappear, and we're just like, well, golly gee whiz, I wonder where they went off to. But the funniest part about this was I was staying at the house where this party was because it was my best friend's house. The next morning, we all wake up to have breakfast. And who's there but camper van girl and her little hookup? And this was so funny because we were just honestly in awe of this girl and proud of her of like, damn, way to take initiative on hooking up. Like if you think about it, I don't know, it could be kind of dangerous inviting somebody into your camper van. But having the forethought to be like, I'm gonna hook up with somebody. I don't want to pay for a hotel though. And I'm just gonna do it in my van in the front yard. Isn't that easy? So props to that girl for being prepared and doing it in the comfort of your own van. I probably could word that better, but you guys get it. And the last secondhand story time snippet comes from a friend where they went to a big old house party, and my friend was the designated driver, but there were a lot of cars there. They were in a packed part of Los Angeles where parking is not aplenty, and so they had to park kind of a distance away from the actual house party. So my friend picked up his friend Lucas, and Lucas actually decided to bring a first date to this party for some reason. I don't know, I don't think going to a house party is a great first date, but they're young, they're looking to turn up, who am I to judge? So this girl, we'll call her Cassie. Cassie and Lucas are on a first date. She seems pretty fun, pretty bubbly. They head to the house party, and almost immediately, Cassie gets hella messy. Maybe she just sucked at beer pong, or maybe she was uncomfortable on her date and was trying to loosen up a little bit, but Cassie gets absolutely trashed. And so my friend's like, I don't know her, I'm not on a date with her, she's not my problem. But Lucas, who is on a first date with her, is kind of getting embarrassed, kind of getting a little bit fed up, and he's like, hey Cassie, it's not gonna work out, like, you have your fun, but I'm out of here. So Lucas leaves. He leaves his first date. Bad form. But my friend, I'm friends with good people, with good hearts and empathy. He was like, dude, like, you just left this girl alone at a stranger's house. What are you thinking? And he also knows that he's her ride home. So he's thinking like, all right, like, we'll head out soon. I'll tell her when we're ready to go, or I can call her an Uber, whatever works. But the party starts winding down and my friend goes, okay, Cassie, like, time to get you home. Cassie is beyond gone. She is so lost. She has no idea where she is. They start walking to the car and Cassie just starts puking everywhere, just projectiling into the bushes. She's lost head coordination, she's stumbling, and my poor friend has her draped around him like a superhero cape, trying to get her to the car, which is parked forever away. Cassie falls. She just falls like into the bushes. He's like, oh my God, I don't even know this girl, but now she is my responsibility somehow. Let me just try to get her home safely. He has to pick up this girl. She is essentially passed out at this point. There's nobody around to help him. He has to like lift her up and carry her and drag her across the street. Not only that, he's thinking, I don't know if I can get her into my car. So he has to, this is probably bad of my friend because I'm sure he could have gotten her into the front seat. But what does he do instead? He opens up the trunk of his car and starts loading this unconscious girl into the trunk of his car. And all he's thinking is, please, please God, if there's one out there, don't let anybody drive by and question what I'm doing, because if they call the cops, I have no explanation for why I'm putting this random stranger into my car. I don't know her last name. I don't even have her address to get her home because I picked her up from my friend's house. But she's my responsibility now. And luckily nobody drives by. My friend successfully puts this drunk girl into his trunk, drives back to his apartment, because again, he's like, I don't know where this bitch lives. She was with my friend, but I have to take her back to my place. I should also note that my friend's a gay man, which makes this all even funnier, because that's just like the gay guardian angel thing to do. But my friend drives back to his apartment, calls up his roommate. They're able to get her successfully into the elevator, loft her onto the couch, put a little bucket next to it so that way she doesn't puke all over their blankets, and they called it a night. But the weirdest part is they said when they woke up the next morning, she was like belligerent and ungrateful. Of course she was like confused, being like, whose random stranger's couch did I wake up on? But when they're like explaining like, yeah, like we had to carry you home, she was like, well, where's my phone? Like, well, why didn't you call anybody? Like, where's all my stuff? You need to call me an Uber home, or like, can you take me home? Like, this is ridiculous. And I'd like to put myself in her shoes and be like, okay, you have to be a little stern in that situation because you could be in danger, but like, be a little bit more grateful that somebody got you home safely when you were the one who decided to get trashed on a first date at a random house party. I don't want to victim blame, but like, just be a little bit more grateful for the circumstances. But you know, sometimes damsels just don't want to be saved from their distress, and this girl was one of those examples. But those were some of my silly, funny, crazy storytime snippets about some funny experiences at house parties. Let me know if you guys have some crazy stories, you know, like no houses burnt on fire, but trying to get a little bit more of a realistic perspective on some of my story times. So let me know some of yours in the comments. And if you guys are out there drinking, you know, have your fun, have a hoot, but hootin' is a gateway to hollerin', and hollerin' could get you arrested for public intoxication, so be careful. But I thank you guys so much for watching this video. I will see you in the next one. Toodles! But the party got so chaotic. What am I trying to say? The party got chaotic. The party got chaotic. Let me start over.